As soon as you have an interview invitation, you need to begin your CaRMS interview prep. Securing an interview is a huge step towards matching with your dream program, but the reality is, all the time and effort you put into your residency application will be redundant if you don't ace your CaRMS interview. In today's video, I'll discuss 5 steps you need to take to master your CaRMS interview prep. Before we begin, hi, I'm Nadine Evans, an admissions associate at BeMo Academic Consulting. Make sure you subscribe now on whatever social media channel you're watching this from so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. If you'd like us to help you with your residency interview, click on the link above or below this video to schedule your free initial consultation. As a quick tip, check out the timestamps in the description of this video if you're looking to navigate quickly to specific sections of the video. Let's start with a quick refresher on how the match works. Essentially, it pairs medical students and residents to postgraduate training programs based on 3 factors. Number 1, the number of available positions for each program. Number 2, the list of preferred applicants from each program. And number 3, the list of preferred programs from each applicant. The first factor is out of your control, but you have the power to influence the second and fully control the third. Your main 2 goals when attending CaRMS interviews are to determine if you're interested in the program and to convince the program that you're the best match for them. The only way to do this is to perform extremely well during your CaRMS interview. So how can you do this? Follow these important steps. Number 1, respond and schedule. Responding to programs and scheduling your interviews is the first step in your CaRMS interview prep. In general, you'll know whether or not you've been invited for an interview in late December to early January. Each program you apply to will update their interview offer status through CaRMS to let you know if you've been selected for an interview or not. If you haven't been selected for an interview, you may receive an explanation from the program about why you weren't accepted, but unfortunately not all programs inform applicants of why they weren't selected. If you have been selected for an interview, you'll receive an email from the program within a few days of your status changing, which will confirm your interview and will include information about the interview, such as the interview type, the location, the duration, etc. If you don't hear from the program via email by the start of the interview period, which is between mid-January to mid-February, but your status on CaRMS shows that you've been invited to interview, be sure to get in touch with the program as you may have been missed from their email list. It's very important to keep this email safe as you'll need to reference this information as you begin scheduling your interviews. Be sure you reply right away to all email invitations you receive, thanking each program for the opportunity. Some interviews will be over video chat or over the phone, while others will require you to be in person for the interview. It's expected that programs will give you at least 3 weeks notice for an in-person interview to allow time for you to make travel and accommodation arrangements. If you have multiple in-person interviews, try to schedule your flights in an order that makes sense. For example, you definitely don't want to fly from BC to Newfoundland to Alberta to Nova Scotia all within a couple days turnaround. Try to schedule your flights from east to west or west to east so that you're not doing any unnecessary travel in between. Interview season can be exhausting, so make sure that you simplify the areas that are within your control. It's also a good idea to arrive at least a day before your interview. First, this is a good idea as many programs will have socials the night before that are worthwhile to attend if at all possible. This becomes a lot more important or even expected in small, intimate programs. Residents and faculty want to select individuals that they get along with and feel comfortable working with closely for the next 3 to 7 years of residency. So socials are a good way to get to know applicants on a more relaxed basis. The same goes for you. You have a chance to assess a program's environment and assess the personality of a program. You'll be spending just as long with your colleagues as they will with you, so it's important for you to determine if you think their program is a good fit for you. Secondly, you don't want to burn out and throw all of your CaRMS interview prep out the window simply because you're exhausted. Arriving the day before gives you a chance to check into your hotel, to do a run-through of your route from the hotel to the interview, to determine or figure out where you're going to park, and most importantly, to wind down, clear your mind so that you can get a good night's sleep. Okay, so the second step in your CaRMS interview prep is to participate in mock interviews. Mock interviews are like the golden goose of CaRMS interview prep. You know how an athlete doesn't become good at a sport without practicing, and how a presentation can be painful if the speaker didn't adequately prepare? Well, the same goes for doing well on your CaRMS interview. There is no better way to prepare for your interview than by participating with real-life mock interviews that will simulate the actual interview environment that you'll be experiencing. First, participating in a mock interview will help you practice accurately with the correct interview format. CaRMS interviews can be conducted in a variety of different formats. As I mentioned previously, they can be conducted over the phone, they can be virtual, and they can be in person. Now, the in-person interview also breaks down, and it could be a traditional interview where you're interviewing one-on-one with your evaluators. But a more common type of residency interview, however, is the panel interview, where you'll be interviewing with multiple evaluators. And lastly, there's the multiple mini interview, or MMI, which is also popular for residency interviews. And with this format, you'll be rotating between a variety of different time stations, meeting with multiple evaluators one-on-one, and discussing or answering prompts that are placed outside of the interview room. As you can tell, all of these formats are very different, so simulating the appropriate format is essential in preparing effectively. During excellent simulations, you'll have the opportunity to virtually meet with trained residency and medical school admissions consulting team members, have them ask you questions, practice answering these questions, all while doing your practice in the correct format. So this means that if your residency interview is going to be an MMI, your simulation will be an MMI. Each response will be timed, evaluators won't respond and they won't gesture in any way, and you'll be automatically moved to the next station when the time runs out. Practicing in this way is particularly necessary to perfect not only the content of your response, but the timing. Depending on the program, interviewees will have between 4 to 8 minutes at each station in an MMI to discuss the prompt. If you haven't participated in mock interviews, you'll have a very difficult time getting the timing of your response right without rambling on or without speaking for only a minute or two and then having nothing else to say. These simulations will also cover very common residency interview questions that you can expect to come up during your actual interview, and they'll help you determine a strategy for answering any type of interview question. Finally, participating in CaRMS mock interviews is beneficial as you'll receive personalized feedback on your responses. While finding a list of residency interview questions to practice with is a good start, if a professional isn't evaluating your responses, how will you know if your sample answers are considered strong or weak? What if your response isn't really answering the question appropriately? What if your answer would be red flagged for being morally or professionally inappropriate? What if it doesn't show the best version of you, and what if it comes across as being stilted or robotic? The reality is you're not a professionally trained admissions expert, and most likely neither are your friends or family members. The best way to ensure your responses are excellent is to receive feedback that is specific to your answers. This way you'll know exactly which areas you need to improve so you can reduce or eliminate your weaknesses and ensure that no matter what question is thrown at you in the interview, you'll be able to ace it. The third step in your CaRMS interview prep is to practice with sample questions. So practicing with sample residency interview questions is a great way to supplement your mock simulations. The more common interview questions you can practice with, the better, because it will help you continue practicing the strategies and techniques that you'll have learned in your mock simulations. Namely, you'll have the ability to answer any interview question, no matter what type it will be. You absolutely need to be able to answer some of the more common interview questions, such as why do you want to be a doctor? And the really common residency interview question, tell me about yourself. It's also important for you to recognize different types of MMI questions that you receive, and when you know how to identify each question type, you'll be able to attack them with the approach that you've learned from your mock simulations. The fourth item in your CaRMS interview prep is to research and compile questions. It's absolutely essential that you're prepared when your interviewers turn to you and ask you, so, do you have any questions for us? Not only does having good questions prepared to ask your interviewers make you look good to the evaluators, but it's also a tool that you possess to help you determine if you're truly interested in their program and to what level. What's unique about CaRMS interviews is that while the interviewers are interviewing you, you also have the opportunity to interview them in order for a match to happen, because both parties need to be interested and rank each other highly. It's therefore important for you to do your research prior to the interview. Go onto each school's websites and research the programs that you've applied to and compile relevant questions. You could ask questions about the program, the location, city, province, staff, and even questions about the residents. Once you've finished your interviews, try to note down the responses to some of these questions. If you're lucky and you have many residency interviews to attend, it can become difficult to distinguish one program for another and your experience at each when you're creating your rank order list. You'll find the ranking process a lot easier if you have these notes to look back on to help jog your memory. So here's a list of some sample questions that you could ask your interviewers, but make sure you do your own research and add some more questions that are relevant to this list. Do you feel like there's a good balance between providing service and learning for your residents? What can a resident do to ensure success in your program? What are recent graduates of your program currently doing? What support systems are in place as residents navigate the stresses of being on call? What are the research opportunities available for residents to pursue? How often are residents evaluated? What teaching responsibilities for medical students are expected of residents? What are the required rotations for the first year and subsequent years? And the fifth and final step in your CaRMS interview prep is the rehearsal. So to fully round off your entire CaRMS interview prep, you need to practice repeatedly until you can answer any interview question confidently. The right practice really can make perfect, or to as near perfect as is possible. The most important part of your practice is that you don't want to recite your CV and you don't want to memorize answers at any point. Memorization is bad news all around, and memorized answers come across exactly as you'd expect, canned. The whole purpose of a residency interview is for program directors and residents to get an idea of who you are as a person, what your experience is, what motivates you, and ultimately if you'll be a suitable match for their program. To gauge all of these factors, they want to get to know the real you, and they want your genuine response to their questions. Memorized answers, unfortunately, just don't come across as genuine, and they can really hurt your chances of getting into your dream program. In addition to being insincere, memorization often backfires because if applicants are asked different variations of questions that they prepared, their stilted answer is often not appropriate. So instead, what you want to do is to rehearse, ensuring that you're hitting a few target points that you've jotted down. So during your rehearsals, you should notice that your answer is flexible and dynamic. Yes, you want to ensure that you're hitting those important points, but the rest of it can flow naturally. It's a really good idea to practice in front of a mirror or in front of a camera, and the reason being is that you want to be on the lookout for any nervous behaviors such as touching your face and touching your hair, pacing, or even fidgeting. On your interview day, you want to come across as being confident, and you don't want to be distracting your interviewers from hearing what you have to say. You want to be remembered by your fantastic responses and unique personality, not as the girl who kept playing with the buttons on her shirt. So that'll wrap up another one of our videos. So please subscribe, like, and leave a comment if you have any questions. Do you need any help ticking off one of these boxes in your CaRMS interview prep? If so, let me know in the comment section and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Finally, if you would like us to help you with your CaRMS interview, click on the link above or below this video to schedule your free initial consultation. Hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time.